All right, guys. Good morning. Good morning. It is Monday. Oil is at 97 a barrel right now for WTI crude. Brent crude still over $100 a barrel after more strikes happened over the weekend, specifically on Karg. Karg Island is Iran's oil choke point, handles about 90 to 95% of their crude exports, which is roughly 1.5 to 1.6 million barrels per day. Now, the U.S. said it only struck military targets. It basically said that it spared the oil infrastructure there. But I do think it's like a warning shot saying, hey, look, we can take out this oil infrastructure there. And yeah, it's not a strait, but it functions like their main, oil choke point to the world. It's a tiny island. Again, it handles roughly 90% of Iran's crude exports. It was struck. And yeah, we'll see what happens today. Again, if we look at oil here, oil is actually down a little bit. WTI crude earlier this morning was over $100 a barrel. So WTI crude was over $100 a barrel. And it's since fallen back down to 96, 97s right now. Brent crude, if we take a look at Brent, is still over $100 a barrel, but it's pulling back some on this news as well. So this is the third week of this conflict. Look, you can see Brent crude up to 102.80s right now, 102.80s for Brent crude. We do have Nvidia's GTC conference today. That could move markets. We'll see if it does, but we do have Nvidia's GTC conference, and the S&P and NASDAQ are having their first kind of light of green right now. We've had 3 green days in a row for most equities and indexes. NASDAQ just broke highs of the day not that long ago. It's up to 24.8, almost back up to 25,000 on the NASDAQ, and I think we've had 3 red days in a row, if I remember correctly. 3 red days in a row is what I think we've had. So we'll see if we can get a green day today. It looks green so far this morning. Hey, what's up, Jason? Good morning. What's up, Matthew? Good morning, Sergio, Pink, C, Jonathan, Bam Bam, E. Yeah, Bitcoin, crypto is kind of rallying a little bit here. Demetrius, what's up, dude? VA, Sparta, Pawn. Good morning, guys. Yeah, I know I missed a bunch. Ava, Fate, PP, Fonz, Yan, Keegan, Jason, Womble, Andrew. What's up, guys? Yeah, it's a Fed meeting week. We got GTC later and more, so we honestly got a lot of stuff to cover here. But let's take a look at yields real quick. So obviously the story right now is oil. Oil and the inflation aspects of oil and the rise that they've made, as well as we have the Fed meeting this week. We do have the SER, the summary of economic, or the SEP, the summary of economic projections going live with the FOMC decision at 2 p.m. on Wednesday. And, we'll get a little bit more outlook on rate cuts. I think right now markets are probably pricing at about 1 rate cut a year. We'll see if the summary of economic projections changes that tune. We'll see what the dot plot looks like in terms of what Fed members are thinking. And yeah, we do have some stock news today. Nvidia back up to 182s. NBIS gapping up to 129s. 129s for NBIS. I did see this one. Look at this gap up. It's at almost 130. Percentage wise, it's up 15%, 14% or so. Yeah, so Nvidia and NBIS did a $2 billion deal. Nvidia is going to invest about $2 billion into NBIS. Ongoing hype around its massive 1.2 gigawatt AI factory build out. So it's a deal and AI theme momentum. That's a big move on the upside here. Big move on the upside. Nasdaq's now pulling back a little bit here, though. Here's the S&P 500. If we look on the right side, here's the S&P. S&P's up around 67s. Still a little ways away from 7,000. Bitcoin on the other end, though, man. Look at Bitcoin, guys. Bitcoin Back up to 73,000. Let's see if we can hold here. I think a lot of traders are going to be watching this specific level on Bitcoin. 75K is, I think, what a lot of traders are going to be watching here. This 75,000 level right here, I think is one to pay attention to on Bitcoin. Not an investment professional, though, of course. We're not liable if you lose money. Understand all this stuff on screen. I can't guarantee anything. We're not investment professionals here. Understand markets are risky. We're not liable if you lose money. Understand CFTC 4.41. Hypothetical or simulated performance have limitations, guys. We can't guarantee anything here because we are not investment professionals. And yeah, understand all this stuff. But yeah, Bitcoin, let's see if we can get over 75,000. The bulls could be back in control today. Yeah, the reason they're describing for this oil pullback, if we take a look at oil, what they're saying this is, it's easing off the highs because some of the worst supply fears have cooled. Trump is talking up efforts to reopen traffic through the Strait of Hormuz and in-game vibes on the conflict. A record strategic reserve release is acting as a, psychological backdrop, but I don't think the reserves are going to save this oil market. There's been a few successful tanker transits going through, but yeah, we struck Karg Island. But yeah, publicly, Trump and CENTCOM say they targeted only specifically military assets on Karg, which were missile boats, launchers, drones, and other stuff. But that they specifically and deliberately spared the oil terminals and storage. They want to show Iran that if it keeps hitting ships and closing Hormuz, that Washington can take out their oil infrastructure, basically. But they didn't do it yet. The red line, line in the sand, you can call it, is going to be the Strait of Hormuz with all this stuff. They're trying to get ships through. And yeah, markets are on edge right now. Markets are on edge. Meta signed a deal. Yeah, Meta's up to 630s this morning again. I don't know if I'm in Meta right now. Let me see. Okay, so sources say that Iran's new leader has been put on a life support machine and now is unable to breathe unaided, apparently. This is sources in the country told The Sun today. So sources told The Sun that, yeah. A lot of big AI names to talk about today, but some believe the Middle East instability could continue until September or longer. Even if it's lower intensity, Axios is reporting, citing admin officials and officials in allied countries, that some believe that all this conflict could lead all the way through September. Yeah, for sure, Keegan. And that's going to be the U.S.'s line in the sand, obviously, I think. UAE just reported that oil production has fallen to about 2 million barrels a day versus almost 4 in February. So it's dropped almost 50%. Yeah. So two sources are also saying it's down by more than half regarding ADNOC crude output. Italy's foreign minister says diplomacy is the right approach to the Hormuz Strait situation. Yeah, and this is a conflict that's taking center stage in the world because the Strait of Hormuz is relevant not just to the United States, but everywhere. 20% of the world's oil. We're going to see inflation, go up from this the longer this conflict takes. And so the whole world's watching this to see what happens, to be honest. And with all that stuff, we do have NVIDIA's GTC conference today at 1 o'clock. Eastern time today. We have NVIDIA GTC. NVIDIA's at 182s right now. But scary market here, guys. Scary market. Well, we get a crypto rally. Crypto's kind of rallying already here. MU reports on Wednesday after the bell, something like that. Yeah, we got a lot of stuff going on Wednesday too. The Fed meeting, we have PPI inflation in the morning, the Fed meeting in the afternoon, apparently MU in the evening. SanDisk and MU. Yeah, SanDisk provides memory here. If we look at SNDK, they're back up to almost 700s. They popped over 700s for SNDK after their earnings back here. They didn't really hold it though. They just kind of came back down. But almost back up to 700s for SanDisk. And that is a level that I'm paying attention to on it here at 700. I think that makes sense to watch. 700 specifically. Do you think oil will pump if other countries don't join the U.S. protecting the port of Iran? Yeah, I mean, I think it's nuanced, but yes. It just depends on what happens. Even if we get this settled, it's still like the thing to understand about all of this is that even if the conflict slows down, oil is still impacted from it longer term, because it's not just like, okay, everything's back to normal, let's just get back to it. It takes time. You know, when things shut down like this, it takes time. And the lasting effects are there. So NASDAQ starting to flush under 24,800s. Yeah, basically what Pawn said here. Big warning shot that they can affect the economy there if they want to. Yeah. Because again, remember the Karg Island area, it's a tiny island, but it handles roughly 90% of Iran's crude exports. It has deep water terminals built to load multiple VLCC super tankers and tens of millions of barrels of storage fed by pipelines from their big southern oil fields in Iran. So almost all of Iran's seaborne crude revenue runs through that single point. Just to put this into perspective on why it's relevant. Any damage, seizure, even like a threat to it, translate into potential losses of 1.5 to 1.6 million barrels per day of supply. It's not a geographic strait like the Strait of Hormuz, but it's such an important part. Markets treat it like a choke point. So it's kind of their oil lifeline, so to speak. And so hitting that is why oil is back up higher today. Even though we didn't strike their infrastructure, at least that's what we're saying, it's still a very relevant topic right now. So, and if we look at yields this morning, guys, let's take a look at yields ahead of the Fed meeting right now. So 10-year treasury yields still at about 4.25% right now. They pushed up a little bit more late last week. They're kind of flat on the day for yields ahead of the Fed meeting later, but here's yields right here. You can see, we look at what they're doing today. They're down slightly, but kind of a small move. And 10-year treasury is at 4.25% this morning, 4.25%. So we'll see if we can hold this, but we had a German government spokesperson says we see preparations for a major Israeli ground offensive that would significantly worsen already tense humanitarian situation in this region. So, but yeah, yields are up over the last few days, but slightly down on the day today at 4.25%. Now, remember, this is after yields a few days ago were under 4%. You know, so yields were under 4% for a little while. They were at, let me see where this was. Prior to this conflict starting, yields were under 4%. You know, the conflict started here. Yields dipped under 4%. Since this conflict started, because of the inflation spiking aspect of this conflict, yields, and in that regard, interest rate sentiment has been higher. Why? Because we have less green light to cut interest rates if inflation is a risk, like it is right now, from oil. Oil being more expensive everywhere is going to make inflation more risky, and thus we have less green light to cut interest rates, is what it is. I think Brent crude is about 102 something a barrel right now. Let me see. I can ask AI, but it's over 100. I think it's like 103, maybe like 103 roughly right now for Brent crude. WTI West Texas Intermediate crude at 97.5s, which is higher than last week as well. We put a 10-day chart up just to see why everybody's freaking out regarding this and regarding inflation here. Here's where the conflict started, right here. So pre-conflict, we were up a little bit in it leading into it, and now we're all the way up here. So this is why, and we spiked to 120 originally on the 9th as well. So the big story is how long this conflict lasts. Like, how long does this thing last? And yeah, we'll see what happens. What's up, Faye? Hey man, appreciate you getting up this early and streaming. Makes my mornings. Yeah, what's up, Faye? Yeah, I don't know, Digital. We'll see what happens there, brother. And if we're talking about stocks here, again, guys, the big story for the day in stocks, I think, number one is NBIS is up big after an NVIDIA deal. If you look at NBIS, NBIS is up to 130s right now, guys, 130s. Traders are piling into AI infrastructure after they had a $2 billion NVIDIA deal announced. I think this was last week, if I remember correctly, around it, but it might have been earlier this morning. Yeah, so Nebius. We see news that happened earlier regarding Nebius. Nebius and Meta are signing a $27 billion AI infrastructure agreement. So $27 billion AI infrastructure packed with Meta for NBIS here. They're going to provide Meta dedicated capacity across multiple locations using the NVIDIA Vera Rubin platform starting early next year, is the deal announced by NBIS regarding Meta and NBIS. I think last week it was NVIDIA deal was announced sometime around here. I remember seeing the NVIDIA Nebius deal announcement. Yeah, on the 11th is when the, yeah, so it was Wednesday last week. We had Nebius and Meta. Big. Look at the NASDAQ here. NASDAQ back up to almost the highs of the day here. And we've been pushing highs. Prior to today, how many red days did we have in a row on the NASDAQ? We had 1, 2, 3 red days in a row prior to today on the NQ. 3 red days. It's cold here in Texas as well, man. It's like 40 degrees right now. Which, for me, I'm from Louisiana. As a Louisianian, 40 degrees is freaking cold. Yeah, $27 billion Meta deal. Amazon will be next with Nebius. I'm in Amazon. I hope so. Amazon's dipping a little bit lately. But we've had a couple red days in a row in the market here. We'll see what happens, but I'm slightly green on today, which is good. A little bit green in everything. I only have one stock that I'm red on. Yeah, let me do a poll here today, guys. I haven't done a poll today yet. What's the poll? What's the good poll? How long will this conflict last? I'm gonna do 6 weeks. Today is the 3rd week. It's the 3rd week of this conflict now, officially. We can do 3 months or less. We can do 6 months or less. And we can do over 6 months. All right, guys, vote on that poll. The poll is now live here. How long will this conflict last is the question. We have 6 weeks or less, 3 months or less, 6 months or less, or longer. Vote on the poll. Let me know what you guys think here. Yeah, Bitcoin is up, man. Is Bitcoin finally seeing a bull run? Going back to some levels here, I think 75K is the level to watch for Bitcoin. The other question is, does Nvidia run ahead of GTC? So we had big news about NBIS and their deal with Nvidia, as well as Nebius's deal, $27 billion Meta deal. Now, Nvidia has GTC today. So we have the GTC Nvidia conference today. Big AI conference going on at 1 o'clock today, Eastern Standard Time. And is Nvidia running from that, or has it gotten baked into it? Nvidia still making some moves here. NASDAQ just broke highs as well, up to 24,830s. Here, chat, 24,830s. All right, so looking at our poll, 43% think it's going to last 6 weeks or less. 31% think 7 months or more. Five-year Meta deal is greater than market cap. Yeah, I mean, that's probably true. But just to take a look at this, guys, like if you want to look at Carg Island is what was hit. It was the big story. But if we look at it, like let's show you guys an actual picture of what this is here. So here's Carg Island. Okay, so like let's take a look. All right, so here's Carg Island right here. This is what we hit over the weekend. Military targets is what we said. Here's the Strait of Hormuz, the choke point where oil goes through and back, right? But you can see how close everything is relative to this. So hitting them here will influence their ability to produce oil if we hit their oil targets, which so far we said we haven't yet. Yeah, let's take a look at some stocks. You guys have any stocks you want me to take a look at this morning? NASDAQ is pumping, though, this morning. Apple, 250, slightly green. Meta, very green on the day after its NBIS deal. Alphabet, slightly green at 302s right now. Netflix, slightly red at $95 a share right now for Netflix. 95 a share. Amazon, slightly green at 209s basically right now. Bitcoin is green, NASDAQ is green, S&P is green. Applied Digital. Yeah, I mean, I like the trend, but Applied Digital is up so much right now on the year. Like in the last 12 months, Applied Digital is up from $7 to $27. So it's up hundreds of percent over the last 12 months. And at the highs, it was up more. Maybe it's time for a pullback. The longer term 200 exponential play is there for Applied Digital, but it's up so much right now. Circle Internet. Yeah, I mean, this one is a little bit more unpredictable, but it's pretty green on the day. It's at 120s right now. Kind of flat over the last year. $100 I think makes sense to pay attention to on this one in terms of technicals. Right around the 200 exponential as well. Like $100 is here. You know, right around the 200 EMA already. So if we dip down, see if that holds. You got like 150 right here. I'm gonna try to run through these quick. Nvidia pulled out of Applied Digital a couple months ago. I still like them. Visa? Yeah, I mean, Visa's down on the year. Not on the year. I think it's down on the year, actually, as well. The year started for them, what, right here? Yeah, so Visa's down on the year and over the last 12 months. Markets are carging. Yeah, they are. And again, we have less news today overall, but we do have the Empire State Manufacturing data going live at 8:30 Eastern Standard Time today. Webull, what is Webull? Is it Bull as a stock? Yeah. This is right, huh? Yeah, Webull. $5 a share though, man. When did this IPO? Man, Webull stock. I haven't looked at this one in a while. Why is this one so weak for Webull in terms of price? That's super weak. Look at our poll. 47% think it's going to last 6 weeks or less. Yeah, so we did get news that Powell basically declined to do the first half of the semi-annual monetary policy report to Congress. So Powell basically, every year Powell has to do congressional testimony. Powell skipped the first half this year, basically. Maybe we'll get one later this year, but Powell is supposed to step down in May as well. So we'll see if we see Jerome Powell do another semi-annual monetary policy report to Congress. We have him at the FOMC meeting this week on Wednesday. We'll see if he comments on that. Maybe he does. How was the storm for you last night? If there's a storm, I missed it. I slept through it if we did. Yeah, HIMS is interesting because look at the NASDAQ break highs again. HIMS is one of these stocks that HIMS did break the HIMS broke down recently and then popped right back up. So Novo came after them. Basically what they said, knock off weight loss drugs for HIMS. They said that they were going to go after HIMS. HIMS ended up dropping from this like a big percentage. You can kind of see the whole move here. Kind of faked a lot of people out, including myself, right? It dropped all the way down to 13s. I got out around like 16s or something. It was a small position though, so it doesn't matter too much. And then Novo basically said they were withdrawing their charges or whatever it was, their lawsuit. And then HIMS basically filled the entire gap back up. It's basically where it was before. So yeah, there was other breaking news that that the lawsuit, that a judge ruled against the lawsuit basically regarding the Fed building in Powell, right? So there was news. Let me look up the details of this here real quick. But a judge, I'm pretty sure, ruled against the Jerome Powell Fed building lawsuit. So maybe we'll start to see more Powell before he leaves his term here, but yeah, a federal judge threw out the Department of Justice subpoenas and effectively shut down the criminal probe into Powell. They called the subpoenas a political attempt to pressure him rather than a good faith case. And the Department of Justice is going to be appealing it. So unless they get it reversed through an appeal, the lawsuit against Powell is going to be done. Yeah, and here's NVIDIA ahead of GTC. One of the big stories today is GTC. Hey, what's up, Gene? Yeah, Webull is weak. It completed profitability still negative for Webull. There's no fresh upside catalyst. Yeah, so over the last few days, at least one Indian flagged oil tanker and 2 LPG carriers have been given safe passage. More than 20 Indian vessels remain stuck near the strait waiting for clearance. But one Indian flagged oil tanker and 2 LPG carriers have been given safe passage through the strait. Maritime intel shows a handful of commercial vessels transiting the strait on individual days, sometimes literally one ship though, with many others going dark or holding position because of repeated attacks. So yeah, a couple Indian and other flagships made it through. But overall, Hormuz is still effectively down, with traffic running at a tiny fraction of what would be considered normal. It's not 100% down, but it's down 90+%. NVIDIA pushing up a little bit, dragging the NASDAQ higher, and the NASDAQ is still testing 850s. Yeah, doesn't NVIDIA have earnings this week? Yeah, I see some people talking about NVIDIA here. We have Dollar Tree early this morning. It dropped. EPS of around 256, expected 253, so slightly better, but missed revenue. So I'm assuming Dollar Tree might be down on this news. Yeah, Dollar Tree down slightly on this news. A couple other companies report. Simtech reports this evening. We have Lululemon tomorrow evening. General Mills, Macy's, and more retail Wednesday. MU Wednesday after the bell. So we'll see what Micron earnings look like, but yeah. Yeah, Nvidia has GTC today. It's at 1 o'clock. China continues receiving oil from Iran. U.S. and Israel ships are the only ones not allowed to go through. Yeah, I mean, any ship related to the U.S. or carrying oil for the U.S. or whatever is not going to be able to get through right now. If they... Okay, so Besson is speaking right now on CNBC. So Besson is speaking on CNBC on whether he could intervene or whether we could intervene in oil markets, and he said have not done that. So he said Putin would get even more money if oil spiked to 150. He said, we are seeing more fuel ships go through. Indian and Iranian ships. We believe Chinese ships have gone out. We believe that there will be a natural opening that Iranians are letting out, and we'll be fine with that. He said, on the oil supply deficit, the deficit is somewhere between 10 and 14 million barrels, according to Treasury Secretary Besson. And again, regarding the Strait of Hormuz, he said, we believe Chinese ships have gone out. It's a myth to say Iran is smoothly functioning government. It is very likely to assume successful completion of 301. And he said that the aim is to prevent rebuilding of their military capacity. That they're now focusing on factories there in their military campaigns. But he also said, we don't want to decouple from China. And any actions to address prices depends on the duration of this war, which is what I've been saying for weeks now, and what everybody's really saying here is that where oil goes and what the end result is of all this stuff is really going to depend on the length of this conflict. That's why my poll right now is how long does this conflict last? And looking at the poll, 41% say 6 weeks or less. 41%. 20% say it's going to be 3 months or less, 10% 6 months or less, 29% think it's going to be over 7 months. And so you can kind of see how split the poll is right now. You know, we got some people here thinking it's going to be less than 6 weeks. And then you got people, basically the other leading percentages is this one right here, 7 months plus. And so a lot of differing opinions regarding how long this conflict will last. Oil's down on the day, though. We are a little bit more stable. And the NASDAQ is green on the day. At least it's looking like we might have our first green day in, what, 3 days? 4 days? I think it will end next week. It's taking center stage in everything going on right now. Again, Besson's still speaking. He said inflation expectations are well anchored. Oil probably much lower than 80 in a couple months. He said, I don't know how many weeks it will be regarding the Iran timeline. Yeah, look, here's the breaking news from him right now. So Besson is now speaking here. And I'll pick this up a little bit, but Besson is now speaking here. Yeah, so he doesn't know how many weeks this is going to be, apparently. Yeah, so look. Besson on the Iran timeline. I don't know how many weeks it will be. Yeah, GTC's today. That could move AI markets, obviously, and I think there's a lot of stuff that could... A lot of ways we can go with it. We are going to be trading today, guys. So we are going to be trading. We'll see if markets hold right now, but man. Yeah, the NASDAQ has broken highs. It's up to 24,850s right now for the NASDAQ here. Yeah, so again, Bess had said inflation expectations are well anchored. We can take a look at gold. Gold is all the way down to almost $5,000 an ounce right now. So gold is one of the big, dips that we're seeing here with all this stuff going on. Gold now almost $5,000 an ounce. I think I'm watching, I'm going to watch 5,000 an ounce pretty closely here. Here's silver, under $80 an ounce for silver. And so prior to this conflict, we saw gold and silver make crazy moves. It's been kind of a crazy couple months in markets. Even prior to this conflict, we saw crazy moves in gold and silver, which are starting to stabilize a little bit here. And yeah, Bitcoin 74,000. Okay, is there an argument in the chat room here? Look at gold, guys. Gold down all the way to $5,000 an ounce right now. So gold is now fading back down here. All right, so Treasury Secretary Bessent did say that U.S.-China trade meetings in Paris were very good, according to the CNBC interview. So again, he said they were, quote, very good, end quote, via the CNBC interview with Treasury Secretary Bessent here. Yeah, look at gold here, guys. Gold is about to tap 5K. Here's oil. Oil stabilizing a little bit as well, but still higher than it was last week. With all the macro going on, I'm not sure if GTC will even help this year. I don't think the market usually goes up from GTC either, though. The last time I covered GTC, if I remember correctly, the market went down. No, from last year's GTC. I'll have to go back and check, but risk on. Hey, listen, Jason and Nick, y'all say something nice about each other here, okay? Both of y'all sit in the corner, say something nice about the other one. Do it right now. Do it right now. I'm not going to say, like, I agree. It depends on, so I think somebody said that they reached out to the president trying to work a deal. It depends on what timeline we're talking about. If you're talking about pre-strikes and pre-conflict, I think they were trying to get a deal done. If we're talking about after the strikes, then I think there were rumors of that, but they actually came out, Iran actually came out denying those rumors. And so what the truth is, to be honest, somewhere in the middle here. So y'all chill out. Y'all be okay. Yeah, y'all give each other a hug and, yeah, you'll be all right. All right, guys. Will gold break under $5,000 an ounce? Yeah. Yeah, it's all good, guys. All right. Is it time to buy the NASDAQ here, guys? Let me know right now in chat. Is it time to buy the NQ? NQ's right around highs of the day. If we get a pullback to like 24,800s, maybe 24,750, I'll look to maybe buy a little bit with a tight risk under 770s. Not 750s, I mean 780s. We get a pullback to 780s, maybe I'll buy with a risk of like 765 with a, or maybe even like 750. But we're too close to these highs for me to buy this dip here. It's not a big enough pullback in the NASDAQ for me. But gold, guys. Gold just tapped $5,000 an ounce. I'm tempted to try to buy gold here as well. But gold is kind of scary right now also. Remember, Besant did say earlier that oil will probably be much lower than $80 in a couple of months. So who's on the wrong contract for NASDAQ? Literally, I'm on TOS's. This is TOS. The NASDAQ's right here. So this isn't even like a set contract. I think TOS auto rolls. If you look at it, I don't even put in the rest of the numbers. I just put in /NQ on TOS. Hamas held talks with president-led Board of Peace in a bid to safeguard Gaza ceasefire under the strain of the Iran war, according to reports. Also, we had news earlier that Genesis mission is to use supercomputer for AI material discovery. NVIDIA, Dell, and ARPA to collaborate on the Genesis mission, according to the information. Oh, wait, don't we have quad witching this week? Is quad witching this Friday? I believe it is. No? Triple witching, whatever you want to call it. What's the rollover contract? What's the new letters? NQ is at 650? 640s? Yeah. I'm watching gold right now. Gold right at $5,000 an ounce again. Look, gold's about to tap it right here. Here's 5K an ounce. Right here. Oil will be lower soon. Nothing to see here. Move along, Besant says. Yeah, I mean, they want interest rate cuts, and so the U.S. Besant also said on whether the U.S. could intervene in oil markets. He said not sure under what authority that would be, but he did say oil will probably be much lower than 80 in a couple months. Yeah, John, some rolled over today just to get ahead of the changeup. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, the VIX, I'm sure, is going to be down a little bit on the day, but elevated still. Yeah, VIX is down to 25s on the day, but still elevated. Here's the VIX over the last few weeks. The Iran war started here. Basically, right here. And so you can see how elevated the VIX is on this. Yeah, we're not going to get cuts anytime soon. I think the base case for cuts is now 1 cut, if I remember correctly. Looking at the CME watch tool, I think the base case for how many cuts we get this year is maybe 1. If we look at the FOMC watch tool here ahead of this meeting, we got a 0.9% chance we're going to cut rates this meeting. And yeah, that's not going to freaking happen. We're not going to cut rates. You know, it's looking July. It's still not looking like we're going to get cuts. September, it's still not looking we're going to get cuts. October is still not looking like we're going to get cuts. December. Yeah, so right now the base case here for rate cuts is going to be 125 basis point cut by December. So basically, maybe we'll get 1 interest rate cut this year. Maybe. Will we raise rates? I don't think so necessarily. But at this point in time, you know, we'll see. Maybe 1 rate cut this year. How many rate cuts do we get this year, chat? Let me know. Raising next year? Depends on how long this lasts. How many rate cuts do we get this year, though, chat? Let me know. See, 0, 1. I don't think we're getting 2, George. I just don't think we're getting 2. Yeah, 0. Inflation is too hot. Maybe 1 for Christmas. Yeah, maybe 1. It depends on what oil does, but are we sure we're getting 1? Not necessarily. It depends on what inflation looks like. MicroStrategy did just announce that they're buying 22,337 Bitcoin for 1.57 billion. over the past week. So MicroStrategy buying another 22,000 Bitcoin plus. Zero rate cuts. Yeah, I don't think we're gonna get I don't think we're gonna raise rates, and I don't think we're gonna cut rates anytime soon. Depends on what inflation does. The interesting reports that we're gonna start seeing are gonna be next month's reports. So like next month's reports are gonna be for this month in March, and this is when the conflict started in March. We saw some elevation of oil and stuff at the end of February, but most of the inflation pushing aspect of this conflict started in March. And so the inflation reports we get in April are going to be really interesting. We'll see what happens. But at this point in time, it's not looking like we're going to get rate cuts until December. A rate cut until December. And then it's only looking like 25 basis point rate cut. Zero is best. If inflation drops significantly, we could excuse one cut. Zero. Yeah, chances are slim, but maybe one cut. Yeah. Yeah, we'll see, guys. We'll see. Scary market right now, honestly, with all the stuff going on. But Michael Saylor buying 22,337 Bitcoins for 1.6 billion. And this is after Bitcoin is up to almost 75,000 this morning. Chat, so here's Bitcoin. 73 sixes for Bitcoin here. If jobs continue to get worse, they might have to. Yeah, that's probably true. If we keep seeing worse jobs, we're gonna have more of justification to. But this Iran conflict does. Show some worries regarding rate cuts, I would say. Yeah, oil prices, obviously, like oil prices pushing up are going to cause problems in inflation most likely, and I think most people expect this now. Oh, well, we'll see what we get here, chat. We will see what we get. Inflation is coming back. Hey, what's up, Mama Pawn? Good morning. Is it time to buy Bitcoin right now? I asked people how long this conflict lasts. Almost 40% think 6 weeks or less, but the other 30% think 7 months. And this is after news. We did get news earlier today, guys. So we did get some news earlier that Iran's new leader has been put on a life support machine, according to The Sun today. So I'd like to see what happens if they cut rates with high inflation. Well, people are going to argue it's a stagflation situation, right? Stagflation means high inflation, weak labor, like stagnant labor and high inflation is where the term comes from. And so a lot of people are going to argue that's what we're in now. We got high inflation, weak jobs. The last jobs report kind of shows that, but yeah, it can sometimes precede a recession. And I think I saw last week that markets are pricing in, if we look at like Poly Market, markets are pricing in a 30% chance that we hit a recession this year. So a 30% chance we hit a recession. Yeah. Markets are also pricing in that a 68% chance that U.S. forces enter Iran by December 31st. By the end of December, by the end of this year, a 68% chance that U.S. forces enter Iran. Yeah. It's got electrolytes. Is that an idiocracy quote? It is. Yeah, if they send troops, it could last a while. We'll see if they do. Markets are still pricing at about a 4% chance that we cut rates 25 basis points in April. Y'all think that's true? A 4% chance? Look at this. I don't think there's any chance that we're going to cut rates 25 basis points in April, though. And so there might be some money. 4% is 4%. I wonder how. Let me see. Let me see the numbers here I'd have to do. And prediction markets are growing right now. Let's see. So if I bet. I don't want a 50 basis point cut in April. There's no freaking shot. Betting $500 would net you $45,000 if we cut interest rates 50 basis points in April. I mean, it's never going to freaking happen. Yeah, so if I bet 5K, I make what, $300? I mean, that's not the worst. Yeah, the Dow. Oil back down to 97s here. Here's the Dow. Dow's up to 47s. Gold still testing 5,000 here, though. Right at 5,000 still. I should have bought that 5,000 dip. I was really thinking about it. I told you guys I was tempted to buy this 5K dip. Maybe I should have. But the Dow looking good as well. It's still at 47s when it was at 50 plus not that long ago. But look at this dip from 50,000 on the Dow, from 50,000 plus all the way down to 47s where we're at now. I don't trust prediction markets, too much manipulation. You already said they're going to deploy 5,000 troops. I don't think anything's never. It's just, I mean, a 50 basis point cut by April, which would be not this next Fed meeting, but the one after that. The only way we would get a 50 basis point cut is if the labor market like consistently showed massive weakness, and then even then it wouldn't be a 50, it'd probably be a 25 basis point cut. That's still incredibly low odds though. Right, judging by just the sentiment related to everything right now, there's very, very, very low chance we cut rates in April. We're probably not cutting rates. At this point, markets are pricing in maybe a December rate cut of 25 basis points or larger in December. Maybe. And so, and it's still competing with basically the same odds for a pause in December as well. So the question is not how much we cut rates this year, it's if we cut rates this year right now because of the inflation pushing aspects of this conflict and regarding the price of oil. Are you trading with leverage or without? It depends. I mean, in what? Yeah, futures are leveraged when you trade them. But just going back to this here. So while we have gotten news that some Indian ships have gotten through, specifically an oil tanker and 2 LPG carriers, they were given safe passage. The big news that spiked oil over the weekend is Karg Island was hit. Military targets on Karg Island, they say, were hit. And so that pushed oil up. Even with oil being down over the last few hours here, it's still at 97s. This was higher than oil was last week. So oil, it's still higher than it was last week. You know, if you look at this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, oil for the most part, it never got over $100. Most towards the end of last week. It did pop over $100 earlier today, though, just on the Karg Island news. But yeah, the U.S. hit Karg Island. They targeted the military presence there, but what it really means here is that they can hit other stuff too. So Karg Island is like their oil choke point. It handles 90 to 95% of their crude exports, which is 1.5 to 1.6 million barrels per day. It has deep water ports that can load VLCC tankers, store up to 30 million barrels, and channels the bulk of Tehran's oil revenue, including flows to China. So if we damaged or seized this, it would instantly hurt their oil exports, obviously. And we did get news that oil production outages from the Middle East are estimated to be around 9 million barrels per day as of now. But yeah, Karg Island isn't a strait, but it's like their main valve to the world. It's a tiny island, handles 90+% of their crude exports. So we're again, most people expect this to be kind of like a deterrence. Like, they didn't hit the oil targets yet. They hit military targets there, but this is basically like a showing of like, hey, We can hit your oil infrastructure if we want to, if we don't start getting ships through the strait. So this is basically, it's basically like a threat, I would say, to it. And with that said, oil down to 96.40s. Look at oil dip here. Let's see why. All right, so Indian LPG tankers safely crossed the strait. 2 Indian flag LPG tankers have successfully crossed the Strait of Hormuz and are heading to India, marking a rare passage through the increasingly risky waterway. The Shivalak is expected to reach India today on Monday, while the Nanda Devi will berth early Tuesday, according to a senior Indian shipping official. Both vessels crossed the strait early Saturday and were not escorted by the Indian Navy. It followed a recent call between Indian Prime Minister and Iranian President and came after India helped repatriate more than 150 Iranian nationals from an Iranian vessel. We also had news that Israeli military says it destroyed a compound in Tehran used to develop satellite attack capabilities in space. We did already get news about India's safe passage for the LPG tankers. But this is what's dropping oil as we speak here. So this is what, I'll put this news up on the screen, but I believe we'll see 2 to 3 rate cuts this year. Jerome Powell is out in a couple months. Yeah, but even if Jerome Powell is out, right, it doesn't mean we're immediately going to start cutting interest rates. It's not like Warsh can step in and say, this is my Fed now, we're cutting interest rates. Like, I know people think that sometimes, but the reality of it is there needs to be like voting. And so you have to have enough votes to get stuff done, even if Warsh is like a super duff. If he is, right? People say that Warsh is mostly against money printing. He's not really against lowering interest rates. It's more so money printing and all that stuff. But I think with inflation being a risk, and when you consider Warsh's history, I don't think it's an easy bet on multiple rate cuts this year right now in the landscape of Iran and oil surge. I just don't think it's an easy prediction right now. I think it's most likely that we're going to get less cuts. We do have the Empire State Manufacturing data going live at 8:30 Eastern Standard Time today. So we do have some stuff going live, although it's a little bit quieter. Canadian housing starts came out at 250, a little bit under 251 versus 255 expected. But yeah, the breaking news right now is that Indian tankers safely crossed the Strait of Hormuz. The 2 Indian flagged LPG tankers have safely crossed the strait and are heading back to India. One is expected to hit India today. The other one is expected to make it to India by early Tuesday. According to a senior Indian shipping official, both vessels crossed the strait Saturday and were not escorted by the Indian Navy. But there was a call between the Indian Prime Minister and the Iranian President after India helped repatriate more than 150 Iranian nationals from an Iranian vessel. So basically, after India saved them to a certain extent in some areas, Iran basically let India's ships pass through, is what this is. Right, exactly. Yeah, it has to be a voting. There's a voting aspect to this, right? Like, there has to be enough votes. So we'll see. Oil would drop to 60 a barrel this summer. 60? I think that's really optimistic. Really optimistic. I just think that's wrong, to be honest. I think even if this conflict ends short term, oil's not going to hit 60 a barrel anytime soon. It's still going to stay elevated. I think maybe 75 or 75 to 80 is what we see oil stabilizing at short term this summer. I don't necessarily think maybe it hits 60. I mean, anything's possible, but I don't think we're going to, I think even if this thing stabilizes pretty soon, I don't think it's going to drop all the way back down there yet, you know? Like going back to 60 would basically be in oil a complete retracement. So that would basically be like, hey, oil's back to normal here. And I think even if the conflict settles faster than expected, I don't think oil's going to go back to normal. For the next 6 months, I think oil's still going to stay at least somewhat elevated from a war premium and conflict premium. Even if the dust settles from all this stuff, it's going to take time for oil to settle back down, just from how long it takes to get everything back running like it used to. Which even whether this conflict settles over the next month is not guaranteed either, So what if the Fed raised rates at this meeting? The numbers actually support that. It would be so funny if they did. Yeah, but you got to understand the Fed. It's possible. I just think it's very unlikely that the Fed raises interest rates this meeting. Why is it unlikely? Because the Fed's not really in the game of shocking markets. They're just not. They're not trying to shock markets. Look at the NASDAQ rip here, guys. NASDAQ is almost up to 24,900s on the news that a few oil tankers in India got through. But yeah, I mean, it's unlikely that we're just going to shock markets and do something that's widely unexpected. Like a rate hike this next meeting is not even on the cards yet in terms of odds. And so it's not really likely that they just shock markets and raise interest rates. Even if you might say it's justified, it's just unlikely, to be honest. Like there's something called the wisdom of the crowd in statistics. And when so many people price in different things, there's usually a little bit of credibility that you get towards those odds. It's not perfect. There's obviously variance with it. But if a rate hike is not on the table, not even like 2 or 3% likelihood rate hike, it's incredibly unlikely that we get one. The real problem with rate hikes right now is the labor market. So like the labor market is already showing signs of weakness. And if we raise rates now, that might exacerbate the labor market, which is already weak to begin with. And so this is why we're kind of in a situation where if you're the Fed, the only thing that really makes sense right now in the landscape of the conflict going on and weak jobs and all that stuff is a pulse. It's somewhere in the middle. Maybe you could argue a 25 basis point cut, considering the weakness that we're seeing in the labor market. Last one should have been negative 92,000. And so maybe you could argue a 25 basis point cut. I don't think there's any chance we raise rates this next meeting. And to be honest, I disagree that the numbers support a rate hike. We haven't really seen inflation spiking up at a high level yet. Like the big argument for hawkishness is what inflation might look like in the next few reports. But we don't really see big inflation spikes in the latest, aside from one PPI reading. CPI was basically flat. And so yeah. Yeah, NASDAQ's ripping up. This is after news again of Indian LPG tankers safely got through. The 2 India-flagged LPG tankers safely crossed the Strait of Hormuz. All right, guys, 10 minutes. We got the Empire State Manufacturing data going live in 10 minutes. Yeah, private credit is a risky thing right now. Like private credit is definitely a risky aspect of this market right now. Whether we go into I think markets are pricing in maybe a 30% chance that we go into a recession this year. So private credit is now a $1 trillion+ market. There's been rising defaults. Defaults and distress metrics are climbing. Some estimates put true private credit default near 5 or 6%, with forecasts from big houses like UBS that defaults could spike toward the mid-teens in a hard landing. So if we get inflation spiking from oil or a risk-off event, it could push default rates even higher, is what the worry is. Yeah, private credit incredibly weak. Like what's happening is like now because of the inflation aspect that we're getting, markets are kind of pricing in higher for longer. Maybe we'll get one rate cut this year, like I said, and so higher for longer dynamic is true right now. But a large share of private credit borrowers are cash flow negative, and so private credit now the main funding source for B- and lower credit, so any seizing up in that market would leave a lot of companies unable to roll the debt. What's truly scary is banks are only 2 lien holders. Let's look beautiful today. Is this a long or short aspect of the market here? Here's the NASDAQ. We will day trade here. Let's day trade a little bit. Maybe I should have bought this dip here. We have a fresh 25K funded account here. We passed one of our tests, the one we were trading on Friday. Now we're funded. Will the 7:30 info move markets? It's manufacturing data, maybe. But it's not 100% guaranteed. I mean, it's Empire State Manufacturing data. So, it's expected at 4. I wouldn't really... It's kind of a B-level event. It's not really something that generally moves markets, to be honest. We don't have any big market-moving data today. We had a lot the last few days. We get the ADP data next tomorrow. We get PPI inflation Wednesday and the Fed meeting also Wednesday. Thursday jobless claims. Friday. I don't think we have anything Friday, to be honest. This upcoming Friday. Yeah, Michael Saylor bought how much did he buy? There's a lot of Bitcoin. Let me see. How much did Michael Saylor buy? I saw it earlier. It was like 1.6 billion, I think, worth of Bitcoin, if I remember correctly. Yeah, 1.57 billion. 22,337 Bitcoin. Yeah. Sure, Wells Fargo is one of the ones that's really struggling, right? Wells Fargo has the most exposure here, no? Yeah, Wells is down big percentages as well. He's about to lose a lot of money. Where does Bitcoin close the year, guys? Let me know. $30K? 100K? 125,000? Yeah, here's Bitcoin. Let's take a look. Bitcoin's looking pretty good today, though. It really is looking okay. And remember, we do have Nvidia's GTC conference. I'm also seeing that officials say China-US trade talks lasted about 3 hours on Monday. For Bitcoin, though, what I'm really looking at, let's talk about some levels on Bitcoin here. Bitcoin, what I'm really looking at, 73,000 makes sense to watch. 75,000 above us makes sense to watch. And then you got the highs of the day right here. But I think these levels, 73K underneath the 75,000 above us, makes sense on Bitcoin. I'm looking for a large enough pullback in the NASDAQ here to see what we get. Yeah, just for those at home that might not understand about like private credit and what it all means. Private credit is basically non-bank, illiquid loans made by funds and asset managers to, a little bit riskier countries. And so we're talking about Wells Fargo. The risk to a bank like Wells Fargo is that it's quietly become one of the biggest lenders into that ecosystem. And so the private credit blow up is risky to Wells Fargo. It hits both its borrowers and its fund clients at the same time. And so again, like, private credit is lending done outside of traditional banks. So it's done by like private funds, direct lending, and PE firms. So they make bespoke loans like first lien, unitranched, distressed. These are sub-investment grade sponsored backed borrowers, but the loans are not liquid. They're negotiated privately and they're not trading on exchanges. So we don't have a ton of disclosure to it. The investors in this are typically institutions and wealthy clients that are locked in for years. So borrowers are highly levered, often with floating rate debt. So higher for longer rates in a weaker economy can make this worse. And like a weaker economy can spike defaults, push recoveries lower. But why it affects companies and others is that funds use back leverage, so borrowing from banks against their loan portfolios. So it can be good when things are good, it can, really heat up for them. But when things are bad, it kind of amplifies the losses. U.S. banks have now roughly $300 billion in exposure to private credit funds and other non-bank lenders. Wells Fargo is the single largest bank that's exposed to this stuff. Looking at Wells here, Nasdaq's still pushing towards the highs, but looking at Wells, again, Wells Fargo is the single largest, most exposed bank with about 59.7 billion of that 300 billion. So Wells is not only lending to private credit funds, it's also expanding its own sponsor and private credit lending platform. So is Wells Fargo a buy right now, guys? I don't know. What's the other one? It's like BOA, right? What's Bank of America? It's BA. Bank of America's BA. Bitcoin at 60,000, 150s. Oh no, BA is Boeing. I'm stupid. You're right. It's BAC. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, look at this guy down here. It's weird to get an order filled like that for Bank of America. Yeah, give me a follow on Twitter at X at Beginner Trades. New York Empire State Manufacturing data just showed up at -2. -2 on the NASDAQ here, chat. So I don't think this is really affecting the markets, but the Empire State Manufacturing data did show up at -2. -0.2. I'm sorry. Versus previous of 7. I think they expected a +4, and it ended up showing at -0.2. So -0.2 for this, which is not necessarily good. For the Empire State Manufacturing data. So a little bit weaker manufacturing data right now. Again, -0.2 versus an expected 4. NASDAQ did jump up a little bit on this report, though. Canadian CPI also showed up at 2.4%. Previous was 2.7%. Core inflation showed up at 0.4%. Previous was 0.2% on the month. But yeah, so Canadian CPI actually decreased some versus expectations as well as versus previously. Manufacturing showed up a little bit weaker, but it's not a huge report. But interesting. Look at the NASDAQ get up here, though. The NASDAQ's pushing towards highs of the day here. Look at this. We asked people earlier on our poll, what did we ask? We asked people, how long will this conflict last? 39% say 6 weeks or less. 30% say 7 months. NQ wanting 24,900s. Yeah, 24,900s is right here. Like, I could look at one of the new contracts here. Yeah, I'm showing a little bit different here. Is the new contract H6 or what's the new contract? What's the new contract? Is it H6? Or is it M6? I'll have to go look. Yeah. Here's the new contract right now. It's at 888s. Testing highs of the day up here at 893s right now. Bitcoin about to hit 74,000. Yeah, Bitcoin just tapped 74 actually. So Bitcoin is now over 74K. We got the high of the day at 7433. Dollar Tree CFO says the company remains cautious of potential near-term changes in import tariffs and negative costs related to the Middle East conflict, according to the conference call. Yeah, Jason, so you might be a little bit delayed. Hit the live button next to the play button. We already talked about the Empire State data showing up at 0.2% versus expected 4%. Yeah, negative 0.2. Qatar also sends out an elevated security threat level alert just recently. WTI crude is still down about 3% on the day. It's at 96 though. So crude's trying here. NASDAQ just tapped highs again though. Look at the NASDAQ jump here, guys. NASDAQ is still popping higher. Just broke highs of the day. 24,900s is right here. Canadian CPI did retrace some. Yeah, if we look at gold here, chat. Gold is holding 5,000. Oh, dude, gold seems to really follow psychological levels too. 5K right here. I talked about wanting to buy it earlier today. I said I was tempted to buy it or something like that, and I should have. $5,000 an ounce for gold. Had a really nice rebound there. That big psychological whole dollar number. Jim Cramer says selling here is a mistake. Oh no. What's Adobe doing here? What did Adobe do? A lot of people were talking about Adobe. Adobe's still looking weak here, man, unfortunately. Getting close to the low of the last few years. Again, NVIDIA's GTC conference is big today. When do the numbers come out regarding what? Yeah, so the thing to watch regarding NVIDIA, again, NVIDIA using this conference today. The big story is AI factories, Blackwell-based systems. There's a push on the Blackwell generation and rack scale. AI enterprise, Nemo Studios inference microservices. AI factories as an operating model is going to be a big story, I think, in GTC today. Iraq says it issued tenders to export oil via ports in Syria and Jordan. Be prepared for possible $200 a barrel. Inverse Kramer. All right, guys. Hey. Heading into the opening bell in less than 30 minutes. Could get interesting. Oh, in less than an hour. Did I say less than 30 minutes? I meant less than an hour. I'm sorry. I'm seeing 26,675 on my charts. I'm looking at the oh wait, here, this is the wrong one. It depends on which. Remember, today's rollover week, or this week's rollover week, right? So it's actually triple witching on Friday. So some of these futures contracts that you're looking at are going to be rolled over here. The new one is M, right? I'm pretty sure the new one is M. NQM6. That one's I'm showing at 893s, 24,893. So it really depends on which one you're looking at regarding what price your NASDAQ is at right now. The other big news is that Indian LPG tankers did safely cross the Strait of Hormuz. We had White House press secretary say NATO allies especially need to step up on Hormuz. And so one of the things we're seeing now from the White House is they're trying to get other countries in NATO to get involved. Trump is speaking with European allies and many countries in the region over opening the Strait of Hormuz, apparently. It says Trump spoke with many countries in the last days, speaking with allies in Europe and the Gulf. So I'm seeing also breaking news that the U.S. is allowing Iranian oil tankers through Hormuz. So the U.S. is allowing Iranian oil tankers to pass through the strait to help maintain global supply. Treasury Secretary Bessent said Monday in an interview with CNBC. Tanker traffic has fallen after Iranian attacks on commercial ships in the Persian Gulf, but Iran continues exporting about 1.5 million barrels of oil per day through the route. Here's the NASDAQ coming back down here. Let's take a look at oil, though. Oil dipping all the way back down to 95. Here's 95 a barrel here. I'm tempted to maybe buy this dip right now in oil. I think I might be a little late, though. I think I might be a tad bit late. All right, we're going to buy a little bit of this. This is micro oil, micro crude. We'll take 2 contracts here and see if this holds. But yeah, we had some Iranian leaders come out basically saying that oil is going to be $200 a barrel soon. I'm going to add 2 more to this and then we're going to leave it alone. All right, so we just bought the dip in oil. I think 95 makes sense to watch. And so I want to see if it holds. It went down to $95 even. I just want to see if it retraces back higher here. Bessent says sub $80 oil. Yeah, what did he say? Within a few months is what Bessent said, or something like that. Yeah, I gotta let things settle out here, but I'm in oil. White House says the Trump Xi meeting could be delayed, according to Fox News interview. Trump spoke with many countries in the last few days, speaking with allies in Europe and the Gulf. All right, we're probably gonna have to cut this. We are on Lucid right now. We did get funded in a Lucid account yesterday. Lucid has some of the most relaxed rules in funding. A great way to learn how to day trade. Most day traders lose money, guys. Like, if you don't have the money to lose in the beginning, and even if you do, I don't think it makes any sense to fund your own account thousands of dollars in the futures market. The futures market gives you exposure to oil futures, gold futures, silver futures, natty gas, index options, or index futures, I mean, like S&P futures, NASDAQ futures, Dow futures. So you can day trade these things. Patterns are very similar to stocks. No PDT restrictions. And I think Lucid is one of the biggest up-and-coming firms. Super relaxed rules in funding. No activation fee. Just really nice rules and funding. Really nice rules and funding. They give you a demo. They test your skill with it. If you pass the test, they fund you. I love you. Have a good day. If you pass the test, they fund you. If you fail, you only lose what you pay for it. In this case, it's less than $100. And if you use my link, it's 50% off for new accounts, guys. 50% off. There's no monthly subscription for this one either. It's just kind of a one-off thing. And if you want to check it out, let's put the link up. A great way to help support the channel. So we're in oil right now. I'm hoping oil holds here. But man, look at it. So it started to pop back higher. But yeah, if you want to check Lucid out, here's the link. It's a great way to help support the channel. Most day traders lose money. But there's the link right there if you want to help support the channel. Use code BT. BT, beginner trading, BT. I'll put it to the top of the chat. We put the link up in chat right there. Great way to help support the channel. Let's see if oil can continue rising here. We're basically flat. I want to give it some time. But yeah, this is a Lucid funded account we passed yesterday during Sunday's open. I was expecting the oil market and everything to open red yesterday, but it actually opened up pretty green when I looked at it on Sunday's open. So we actually opened up pretty green. Hey, dude. Hey, buddy. Love you, man.
Love you, Dad.
Have a good day, bud. Oh my goodness, we are down. I'm gonna have to cut this probably here. I don't want to take too much losses. So we will wait. So the breaking news is that a couple LPG tankers from India got through. The other news is that regarding the U.S.-China relations, according to Chinese trade negotiator Li on talks with the United States, he said both sides agreed to maintain the stability of tariff levels. And so some easing with China-U.S. trade relations, but they said that they had candid negotiations with the U.S. team, and that China and the U.S. have constructive discussions. White House press secretary said if the China meeting is delayed, we will provide new dates soon, apparently. But so look forward to announcing dates very soon. Yeah, he's a good kid. He's a good kid. They're both good kids, to be honest. They're both pretty good kids. Yeah, oil continues to fall here, though, guys. Look at oil. So here's oil, all the way down to 95s. I was hoping we'd bounce around 95s, but maybe we will. We'll give it a little bit of time. Good parents equals good kids. Yeah, I mean, I think you got to be authoritative with kids. You got to be firm but fair. You can't let them walk all over you. You can't let them do whatever they want. But you can't be, like, crazy strict either. You know, that generally creates unhappy kids. You got to be somewhere in the middle. You got to be firm, not let them walk all over you, but be, you know, generally kind and understanding too. Somewhere in the middle. As with most things in life, somewhere in the middle's right, usually. All right, guys, oil just cracked lows. Good thing I got out of this for a much smaller loss. 94.70s, 94.80s here on oil, but look at oil break down. Oil's continuing to fall. Make them pick their switch. Yeah. That happens. I used to do that. If you pick the smaller ones, you realize the smaller ones hurt more. You know, they're faster. They whack you a little bit faster, you know. All right, so according to the Chinese trade negotiator Li, they said China expresses serious concerns about the U.S.'s recent 301 probes. On talks with the U.S., they said we oppose unilateral probes, apparently. But that both sides did agree to maintain stable tariff levels. Hey, thank you, Blaze. I appreciate it. Yeah. Will silver pump up? Silver and gold have kind of retraced a little bit here today. So gold was tapping 5,000 earlier. It kind of bounced back. It's out technically green on the day, but it is down. It was at 5,200 or so last week. You can see up here. And so gold has fallen back to this 5,000 level. And this $5,000 level, just if we're looking at support, has been supporting gold. So gold really over the last few weeks has bounced mostly at this $5,000 level, right around it at least. There's a range around this $5,000 level that I think people are paying attention to on gold. And so people are watching this 5K level on it. You know, now we got up here and we'll see what happens there. But this $5,000 level on gold, it makes sense to watch, I think. I was really thinking about buying the dip on it earlier. I just didn't. If we're looking at silver, silver is less like that. I think the lows of silver, we have this big isolated low down here on silver at 77 or so. So this level here makes sense to pay attention to, I think, just because it's so obvious. I think when people look at, you know, any type of chart today or yesterday, they see the 77 level isolated low. If you put up a longer term chart, this level on silver is kind of around here, which is, I would say like 78 or so. 78 to 80. We've had some support. It's not as consistent as like 5,000 with gold, but it's kind of the line in the sand, might influence sentiment. Yeah, if we look at Brent crude, and just to understand the difference here, Brent crude is the worldwide standard of oil here. Brent crude is currently at 102.5s. So Brent crude versus like WTI crude here, which is CL futures. CL futures are at 95. Brent is over 100. So the global standard is at 102s right now. And I think spot's going to be even higher than this probably, but yeah, over $100 a barrel for Brent crude. WTI, West Texas Intermediate crude, it's more relevant to the like US gas prices, but it's still up there. It's over 95s right now. Over 95s. Or it's actually, it just dipped under 95s, to be honest. If you look at like futures that I was trading earlier today. Good thing I cut this trade because oil continues to fall this morning. Bitcoin is up. We've seen spot Bitcoin ETFs, renewed inflows from institutions. Demand is just pushing it higher. Partial hedge against some of the conflict going on right now for crypto and Bitcoin. But oil continues to dip this morning, guys. Oil continuing to fall. My wife says the opposite. Opposite regarding what? Alright, we're at 94.7s here. I gotta just kind of wait right now, chat. Oil's breaking down, the Nasdaq's pushing higher. So we're seeing some more risk on movement in markets here. Nasdaq hit 24,900s, but market's betting on the taco trade. Yeah, remember Carg Island is what got hit over the weekend. That's what's pushing oil higher. Carg Island is like Iran's oil infrastructure. So it getting hit over the weekend pushed the price of oil higher. We didn't actually hit their oil targets. At least that's what we're saying. We hit their military targets, but it was basically like what it was a threat. It was like, hey, they're like, yo, we could hit your oil infrastructure if we want to. You better start letting us get through the strait. You said the short ones hurt? Not the short ones. We're not. If we're talking about switches, we're talking about the thin ones. The thin ones. I'm not gonna go into detail about how I know this, but I was raised in Louisiana. I'm from Louisiana. You know, you try to pick the little thin switch, dude. That thing's about to hurt. The big ones hurt less. 94.70s on oil. 94.70s. Yeah, it's freezing cold here. Not freezing cold. Let me reel back my weak Louisiana cold handling ability. But yeah, it's cold. It's like 40 degrees. All right, guys. So Morgan Stanley is downgrading U.S. small caps to neutral from overweight. Apparently, the trade negotiator in China is saying China and the U.S. are going to maintain negotiations, reach prelim consensus, hope U.S. to keep promises. What stocks do you buy for long term? I tend to like. I mean, I like major stocks. I like indexes a little bit more than individual stocks. I like the S&P, to be honest. But in individual stocks, I like Amazon long term. I think Amazon long term makes a ton of sense. Personally, I'm not an investment professional, guys. And remember, I'm not liable if you lose money. Always make your own assessment. Trade smart. Can't guarantee anything. Understand all this stuff on screen. I can't guarantee anything. I'm not an investment professional. But I like Amazon. I think Amazon makes sense. I think the business model makes sense. I think it's less susceptible to obsolescence. And so, yeah, I'm in Nike also. You know, I'm in Microsoft. I bought PayPal on the dip, but kind of cut a lot of it. We're going to get ready to day trade here, guys. Yeah, just as I get used to the warm weather, it's now cold now, unfortunately. We're sitting 34 degrees. Yeah. Yeah, Morgan Stanley downgrading U.S. small caps to neutral from overweight versus large caps. I wonder if it's time to buy this pullback here on the NASDAQ. NASDAQ's starting to dip. Ahead of the opening bell, maybe we'll get some dips. Nobody needs... yeah, we have NVIDIA's GTC conference today at 1 o'clock. So remember, guys, we do have NVIDIA's GTC conference at 1 o'clock today. I think it's 1 o'clock. Right? Let me see. Okay, the scammers are apparently out right now. Just be careful, guys. I see a lot of scammers out right now. See if NVIDIA can help market right now, but it might be the NVIDIA GTC conference might be at what? 1 o'clock my time. See oil start to bounce some here. Yeah, I just jumped in a long right here on the NASDAQ. Help me, Tom Cruise. Who's Tom Cruise? You know what I was watching over the weekend? Jerry Maguire. My wife loves The Office. I don't know if y'all have ever seen The Office TV show. Loves The Office. Never seen Jerry Maguire. There's so many Jerry Maguire references. All right, there we go. We're up. See if we can ride this bounce a little bit higher. I'll take 2 more off though. Lock that in. We got 2 more contracts left here. Yeah, I hated The Office for years. My wife loved it, and so she forced me to watch it for years. Eventually, now I like it. Maybe it's Stockholm Syndrome, you know? Forced to watch it for years now. I like it all of a sudden. But no, The Office is good. The Office, you gotta just watch the whole thing and understand the story. All right, so we're still up in this trade, but now NASDAQ is still starting to dip here. I want to give it a second though, but yeah, for sure, Blaze, 100%. It's good. Yeah, I'm in this trade. I bought the dip in the NASDAQ here, guys. We're kind of at the bottom of the range. Big story is NVIDIA GTC conference though. There we go, we're green. Look at this bounce. Take half off there. Right about the 8 a.m. scrum, we're gonna cover some of this, like some more of this. All right, look at this bounce here, that's good. I'll try to hold the rest of this break even, but yeah, so the ongoing Middle East war is raising new risks for the global semiconductor industry. Apparently, Taiwan, home to the semiconductor manufacturing company, relies heavily on imports like helium and sulfur and energy from the Middle East. So disruptions in the Strait of Hormuz could push up power costs for them and restrict critical imports for chip production. They produce about 90% of the world's most advanced chips, including processors for NVIDIA and Apple. All right, we're rebounding back up here. I'm gonna just lock that in, take some profit. We did get a bounce in the NASDAQ like we wanted. IDF says they're detecting launch of missiles from Iran and that they're working to intercept, apparently. You front ran me, John. How rude. I know, man. Listen, I had to do it. I should have held though. NASDAQ started to push back higher here. Oil's still dipping down. So oil's still breaking lows. Lows of the last few hours at least. 94.40s on oil. Looks like it's the low of the day. So yeah, oil's still breaking lows of the day here. Look at this drop. Let me make sure we didn't get any other breaking news. It is 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock right now, the 9 a.m. scrum. But NASDAQ starting to creep back higher here, and oil still cracking lows of the day. I am tempted to buy this dip again here. Let's see if we can. All right, so we just bought this dip again. We had a big, large retracement. I might add some more to it. Just want to see if we fill some of this gap on the upside. Or we don't. I think I didn't add to it, but man. I'm not going to add any more on the downside. I'll only add to it if we go green. There we go. That's better. There we go. There we go. I'm gonna cover this too. Look at this move. So I love these big retracements. You see these big candle wicks? I love targeting the retracement of these. Because like we'll form them and then we'll immediately push down. I'm going to cut it right there. Little scalp. We'll see what happens. About to go take a nap? Yeah, y'all be careful here today, guys. OpenAI names new infrastructure leaders following Stargate strategy shift, according to the information. So Iran is asking for release of 3 tankers seized by India in February as part of talks on the safe passage of Indian vessels through the strait, according to sources. Iran is also seeking supplies of certain medicines and medical equipment, according to sources. So we're looking at the deal that they're trying to get done with India. So we did get news that 2 India tankers did get through. They passed through the strait on Saturday, was the news earlier regarding the tankers. Now we're getting news that Iran is asking for the release of 3 tankers seized by India in February as part of talks on safe passage of Indian vessels through the strait. They're seeking supplies of medicines and medical equipment as well. It's looking like. So. All right, so far you guys red or green on the day here today. Look at the NASDAQ come right back down here. Look, so kind of choppy here in the middle of this. Like you can see the volume profile. Let me put this on the chart, make sure you guys can actually see it. You can see the volume profile on the right. We're getting in this big area of volume, which could be choppy. Once we break past this, sometimes we trend easier, but you can kind of see we got a choppy neutral trend right in the middle of that volume profile. So I'm also seeing apparently news that's coming out that says it is expected that some countries will soon announce their support for the operation to secure the Strait of Hormuz, and according to an official in the U.S. administration. So again, is it expected that some countries will soon announce their support for the operation to secure the Strait of Hormuz? Green, green, flat, green, red. Green. Anyone see that drop? No trades. I'm waiting for the opening bell. Hey, sorry to hear that, Sam. Hope you feel better, brother. I had a feeling this would be the case. Yeah, I know that's what the U.S. is pushing for right now, is for other countries to join the effort. So I know other countries are trying to join the effort here, but yeah, it is expected that some countries will soon announce their support. Depends on what we mean by some countries, and depends on which countries. But yeah, Iran is asking for the release of 3 tankers seized by India in February as part of talks to safe passage. Sitting and watching. We'll see what the opening bell brings here. You really will. Well, in the futures market, there's just less red tape dividends. So futures, the contracts expire quarterly though, in futures, and so futures are more meant from shorter term trading versus investing. You know, so you got to think about it like contracts end every 3 months. They roll over to a new contract here. So that restricts futures to a little bit more shorter term action here, unless you just switch contracts when they switch, which is possible. But futures is meant for shorter term trading. There's less red tape. You can day trade futures. No PDT rule. You day trade the NASDAQ, S&P, Dow, Russell, oil, gold, silver, you know, commodities, cattle prices, corn, like all these different things you can trade in oil and futures. And so there's just less red tape. So if we're talking short term trading, I'm trading futures. Long term investing, I'm doing like stocks or options. So it depends on what time frame we're talking about. And again, if you want to get your feet wet day trading futures, check out Lucid. Again, Lucid, great way to help support the channel. No PDT in futures, So you can day trade the S&P, Dow, Nasdaq, Russell. Get some exposure to these volatile markets right now, and most day traders lose. So they give you a demo, they test your skill. If you pass the test, they fund you. You fail, you only lose what you pay for it at less than $100. If you use my coupon code BT on Lucid or on Apex, you know, you get a big discount. You can see the link in the chat right there. Physical gold oil is around 9% higher than paper. This hasn't happened since the 70s. Yeah, I mean, looking at the 70s and just in terms of inflation, it was a scary time. Scary time. Yeah, like here's a CPI inflation graph. Look at this. Look at the 70s in terms of inflations. Interest rates also shot up. But yeah, look. So here is CPI inflation. Here's the 70s right here. That's the 70s. So CPI inflation got up to over 14%. Over 14%. If you look at the price of oil, I mean, we can just look at the oil prices. Futures here. It won't let me go back that long. Look at crude prices. Now, it's all relative to what prices were at the time. But look, because of the inflation that's happened since then, you know, our numbers are going to be higher now, of course. But prior to that, it was what, like $4, $5 a barrel? It then spiked all the way up to almost 40. It stayed that way for a long time, too, up until, you know, mid-80s. So yeah, all good dividend dynamo. All right, guys. Ooh, we'll try to make some money today. We'll see what we get. Oh, this one's different on the Nasdaq here. It depends on which. When we're trading our actual funded account here on Lucid, and again, we got funded yesterday on Sunday's open. I think this is the newest contract. The newest contract is M6, right? I'm pretty sure that's the newest contract. Yeah, this is Tradeovate for volume profile on the right side. How would you define the end of this conflict? Straight open? Surrender? I don't know. The straight open's obviously the first step. But I think if the straight opens up, it signifies other things. So it's tough to see what's going to happen here. But open straight's obviously good. You know, we want the straight open. The world kind of wants the straight open as well, because this impacts not just the United States, but everywhere. And so the world's going to want the straight open as well. I saw some people saying, oh, well, why would other countries do it? It's because they want the straight open too. This causes instability and oil premium everywhere, basically. So we'll see. All right, so Salesforce is beginning the largest ever 25 billion accelerated buyback. And again, this is ahead of NVIDIA's GTC conference today. NVIDIA at 183.50s, 183.50s. So NVIDIA is starting to head back up. We'll see if the NVIDIA conference helps things. You know, NVIDIA GTC, if we get really positive reactions, it can boost the whole market back up. But the same is said on the other side. If we get more negative reactions to GTC, market could freak out and panic. So, speaking of that here, Jim Cramer just said this. This might be bad. Jim Cramer said we are ready for a big couple of days at GTC. Nobody will help in big significant amounts. Why is oil down 4% today? There's some stabilization in sentiment here with oil. There was rumors, there was news that some Indian tankers got through. So like some Indian tankers did get through, and that's big news that people are excited for. And so there's news tankers got through. Eased the price of oil a little bit in the NASDAQ, S&P, Dow. We've had 3 green days heading into today, and so I think markets are just bouncing back in just broad rebound sentiment. There are 3 red days. Did I say green days? Yeah, we've had 3 red days in a row now, so we probably just broad, slight bounce back sentiment is what we're seeing. Again, what we got over the weekend, oil's still higher than it was last week. What happened is that we hit Karg Island. And Karg Island is like they're Iran's main oil hub. Again, we said we hit military targets, so not their oil infrastructure yet, but it is kind of a threatening thing for the US, like saying, hey, we can hit your oil if we don't start getting ships through. And so that is why like Brent crude's still over $100 a barrel and oil opened up really green. But over the last 3 hours or so, we started to see some dips back down. Yeah, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, guys. We appreciate it. Yeah, Karg Island is here. So if we look at Karg Island, it's basically their oil center. And you can see it relative to like the Strait of Hormuz. Here's the strait right here. And then here's Karg Island. So we will see. We will see. But this is where they keep all their oil infrastructure, if you want to know. Like, this is where they keep everything. It's not a strait, but it's their main oil hub. It's a small island. You can see how small it is on the map. But again, it handles roughly 90% of their of Iran's crude exports. So deep water terminals, built to load super tankers, tens of millions of barrels of storage fed by pipelines are there as well. So basically all of their seaborne crude revenue runs through this single point. So it's their oil hub, if you will. And so over the weekend we hit them. Again, we said it was military, but what it really was, if that's true, it was a threat saying, hey, you don't let us get through the Strait of Hormuz, we will hit your oil hub. Industrial production came in at 0.2% just now. Expected 0.1%, basically flat. Not really going to move markets either. Capacity utilization came in at 76.3%. Manufacturing output came in at 0.2%. Oil crashed $7 in a couple hours. Yeah, but I mean, in a lot of people's minds, a crashing oil price is good. With it at almost $100 a barrel for WTI and over $100 for Brent. It means maybe some de-escalation, but I don't think we're there yet. And remember, guys, this week we do have the Fed decision. So we have the Fed meeting this week, right? And the Fed meeting, the big story of this Fed meeting, let's just talk about it, is going to be the summary of economic projections in the dot plot. Right, the summary of economic projections is basically rate outlook by Fed members. It happens every other meeting, and so every other meeting we get a SEP, a summary of economic projections. That is going to be the most relevant aspect of this. We are not cutting rates this meeting on Wednesday. We're just not cutting rates. We're not going to be cutting rates. It doesn't make any sense to cut rates aside from maybe weakness in the labor market, but with the inflation, with oil rising and that causing inflation fears, there's no shot we're cutting rates this meeting. Now, with that said, what people are going to be paying attention to is going to pivot to tone. Like what Jerome Powell says during the press conference, what he says during the FOMC statement at 2 p.m., what he says at the press conference at 2:30, and then what we get at 2 p.m. aside from just his statement is we're going to get a summary of economic projections. And this is going to be outlook regarding a lot of different things, inflation, rate outlook, the dot plot, where people think we're going in terms of rates this year and into the future. And so there's going to be a lot of talk about that, and that's going to be the biggest market moving thing from this FOMC meeting on Wednesday, is going to be these aspects of it. So just be ready for that on Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And yeah, we did get news earlier there, earlier over the last 3 days that there's a couple things regarding Jerome Powell. Number one is that a judge rejected the subpoena by the Department of Justice into Powell's Fed building lawsuit that we got from the Department of Justice. So it got rejected. The Department of Justice say they're gonna appeal, but it's low probability that it goes through. And so basically, the lawsuit is done regarding Powell unless the appeal wins. That's the first thing. The second thing that we heard is that Jerome Powell is not going to be doing the first part of the semi-annual monetary policy report to Congress that we get twice a year. We're supposed to get a Jerome Powell where he gets interviewed by Congress. He testifies in front of Congress. A lot of it's posturing, but we're not going to get the first half of that because of the lawsuit, or the subpoena, I should say. He's basically skipping the first half this year. And I don't think we're going to see it the second half of this year, at least with Jerome Powell, because by the time the second half starts, Jerome Powell's going to be out in May. And usually it's in June or July. And so it's unlikely that we're even going to see the second half with Jerome Powell as well because of when he steps down. He might stay on as Fed governor, though, but... All right, so we got some breaking news right now from Besant. So Besant says if Trump-China visits postponed, nothing with Hormuz. He said Paris talks were constructive. The China visit postponement would be because Trump wants to. So basically, if the Trump-Chinese president visit is delayed, it's not going to be due to any ask of the Chinese president related to the Iran war or the Strait of Hormuz, is what he's saying. It'd be because the president wants to. But Trump also said there's a news conference today prior to the Trump-Kennedy Center board meeting. And this is with GTC today as well at what time is GTC? Okay, so yeah, the GTC is at 2 p.m. today. 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for GTC, the keynote speech by Jensen. All right, so the president just has been tweeting today. He said, quote, yeah, I'm not going to go into what he said. It doesn't have anything to do with Iran or foreign policy or anything like that. It's mostly just bickering with, regarding the shutdown. OpenAI is in advanced talks with TPG, Bain Capital, and Advent and Brookfield on a joint venture to distribute AI products, according to sources. Private equity firms could commit $4 billion for equity stakes in OpenAI joint venture, worth about $10 billion, according to sources. Yeah. The Fade on Friday lost a bunch of accounts. Yeah, that's probably true. All right, guys, we are going to day trade. We are going to day trade live after the bell today. We'll see if we get anything good. We're kind of back and forth, mostly flat on the day. NASDAQ is kind of chopping sideways. I think we have this range ahead of the opening bell to pay attention to. You can kind of see the middle of this range right here, but I'm looking at this range in the NQ. Wrong box here. Yeah, I'm looking at this range. We'll see if we get some movement through it. But I'm looking at this range short term. I think if you look at the volume profile here as well, this range is... you can see the volume profile. It's right around the volume profile as well. So we'll see we'll look for a break of this range. We're also going to be looking for an opening range breakout here. But look, that's the range we're watching in the NASDAQ here. And we'll look to see if the opening range follows this, at least somewhat, in charts. Will be a dip today, but expected to be short. Yeah, we'll see. Yeah, 6 minutes left, 6.5 minutes. We'll see what the GTC news is today, too. Last time I vaguely remember what GTC was in terms of the reaction that we got from NVIDIA. I feel like we got a negative reaction from GTC last year, though. Am I wrong? Chat, how did NVIDIA react to GTC last year? I feel like it was a negative reaction. Yeah, like I feel like it was a negative reaction. I'll have to go back and look and see. It was on March 18th last year. Or maybe not. No, NVIDIA did not. NVIDIA last year reacted really well to GTC. NVIDIA in 2025 was really right here. The GTC really happened. Maybe the initial reaction was red, but look at this big squeeze we got up after GTC. And so the last big move we saw in NVIDIA was after GTC the following 3 or 4 months. All right, the NASDAQ started to dip down here. Look at the NQ. Getting back to the bottom of this range. We'll see if we hold. Bitcoin, chat. Almost 74,000 again. Got close to it earlier. It's since pulled back some here. But look at Bitcoin. Almost up to 74K. All right, here we go. We got 5 minutes left. 5 minutes left. I'm bearish for today. Bull or bear, guys? Give me your last minute predictions. Let me do another poll ahead of the open. Last one I did got about 900 votes. We'll do another poll. Are you bullish or bearish for the opening bell today? Vote on that poll. Bull, bear. I see in chat, bear's in panic mode this morning. Bullish, bear. Yeah, I mean, gold did have a pullback right now. It rebounded right at 5K though. And it's still at over 5,000, but it did test 5K earlier today. It's now technically green on the day. But it was at 5200s last week. It's at 5030s right now. So it's lower than it was last week. So yeah, we'll see. Bull given 3 days of red. Yeah, we're going to be scalping some futures today. Yeah, so we got a little bit of a relief bounce is what we see today in most markets. The NASDAQ is green. Oil is down. We got NVIDIA catalyst with GTC that we're going to be paying attention to today at 2 p.m. Eastern. Looking at our poll, so far the bulls are in control at almost 70-30 dynamic. 70% bull, 31% bear. My gut is telling me bullish. I will scalp if I see anything worth watching. Silver rebounding. No reason not to chase lower highs today. Neighbor's cat told me to be patient. As long as it's not Steve. Bull today for sure. I don't know if anything's for sure. Get ready for a big dump today. Go Bears. Q right at 600. Honestly, the NASDAQ is kind of sideways right now. I'm looking at this range at the open, and we're going to look for a opening range breakout trade or breakdown, whichever way it goes here at the opening bell. That's what we're going to be watching today. So we'll see what we get. We'll see what we get, but we're looking for an orb setup. 10-minute, 15-minute orb is what we're looking for. We'll see if we get it or not. Here, guys. We'll see if we get it or not. Again, ahead of the opening bell. When's the open? We got not that long left, huh? You exit out of some stuff, dude. I got freaking Brent crude still at over $102 a barrel right now. All right, so again, the president's going to hold a White House conference today. He said it will hold a news conference at the White House. He said it's going to take place before his 11:45 a.m. closed-door meeting with the board of the John F. Kennedy Center for Performing Arts. He did not specify the topic of this, though, but we do have a meeting 11:45 today. Treasury Secretary Besant says the purpose of these talks regarding U.S.-China talks is to prevent retaliation and discuss China receiving energy from the Gulf, encouraged China to be good international partners. There's the opening bell, guys. If that's a little bit delayed on your end, hit the live button next to the play button, put it in 2x speed, and let's get ready. NASDAQ bouncing a little bit at the opening. We're going to watch oil here, see what oil does since the opening bell as well. Oil is still under $95 a barrel right now at the open. NASDAQ just cracked under that low here. Under 24,860 low. It's still too close to the bell to take it, but look at the low break here on the NQ. Look at the NASDAQ. It did crack under that range that we put in for about an hour ahead of the opening bell. Still dropping here, still dropping. Trade Representative Greer says a work plan was concluded on deliverables in China. Also discussed talks on possible U.S.-China Board of Trade, what to expect, and what to export to China, and the status of receiving rare earths. All right, so we cracked under this range, but oil's still falling down, so maybe we'll see some bullish action in the NASDAQ here. I want to see what NVIDIA is doing here as well at the opening bell. NVIDIA is pushing up. It's at 183.50s for NVIDIA, 183.50s. First move is the wrong move. Not this time. Let's fall. NASDAQ just popped up to the top of this range here. NVIDIA's jumping up a little bit as well, but this is mostly driven by others, it looks like. NVIDIA's up. Alphabet's up since the opening bell. Amazon is pushing the 210s. So if we look at Amazon here. Meta, which had a deal with Nebius, up to 630, 620s. NASDAQ tapped just the top of that range at 24.9s. Look at that, just the top. We still got to wait for this to move. Also, the EU is imposing sanctions on Chinese and Iranian entities for cyber attacks against EU member states, according to them. Bank of America also raises the Brent oil forecast to 77.5 a barrel in 2026 versus previous forecasts of 61 a barrel amid ongoing Strait of Hormuz situation. Yeah, Bitcoin over 74,000 right now. NASDAQ's getting close. Here's Bitcoin right here. It's over 74,000. At 74.77 right now. All right, guys, NASDAQ up to 24,890s here. Yeah, NASDAQ just broke the top of the range. 25,000 is up here. I am watching 25K. Big psychological level. We have to watch oil, though. Oil down to 94.30s. So, see if oil keeps breaking down and the NASDAQ keeps pushing up. NASDAQ up to over 24.9s. Bitcoin's still up to 24,200s here. Let's watch 75,200s, I mean. Yeah, I'm sitting here watching. I gotta let a couple minutes pass. We're about 5 minutes into the day here, but we'll start trading soon. We got a little 5-minute range we can take, but the pre-market range did break here. Oil's starting to push a little bit higher, though. So Trump to PBS says we are performing very well in Iran. Remember, we do have the GTC conference today. So see if we hold. Yeah, we just popped over highs as well. Got up to 920s here. 920s. I should have bought this 24,900 pullback. You can see the pre-market range right here and the dip that we got right to it. I felt like it might have been a little bit too greedy to attack that, though, to be honest. NASDAQ still pushing here, though, guys. NASDAQ looking bullish so far. Looks like the chat was right. Yeah, looks like the chat was correct. So far, at least. U.S. Postal Service chief told Congress Tuesday that it will be out of cash in less than 12 months and faces severe financial crisis. I have to wait here, guys. I'm going to look for the orb setup, but I have to kind of wait for it. I can't be too greedy here, to be honest. All right, we're at 930s here on the NASDAQ. If we get another pullback to like 900s, maybe 895s, 890s, I'll buy a dip, but I have to kind of wait for it here on the NASDAQ. All right, so again, we're about 7 minutes into the day. I haven't taken any trades yet, but Alright, so we did get somewhat of a dip to 900s here. We opened up green so far on the day. I will look for a pullback, a small dip here. We're close enough to 900, so I'll take a small piece and then I'll add to it as we get down to 95s is the plan. And if it don't get down to 95s, that's alright. We got down to 900s. It still didn't get down to 95s, which is what I originally wanted. Now we're closer to it. There we go. We'll add to this now. Okay, we're in 6 contracts here. Let's see what we get. Can we pop higher? We're close. I think it wants to. There we go. Are we gonna hold? There we go. Take half of that off. Hold the 3. See if this keeps pushing higher. There we go. Cut a little bit more up there on the bounce. We'll wait for it now. Trying to get up there. Where'd the volume profile go? Right now we're red. I don't like that. We'll cover some of this. I'm gonna cut that. That's too big of a dip. Well, wait now. Now we're kind of so okay. The president just tweeted. He said, quote, "We can destroy power plants in 1 hour, but if we do that, rebuilding will take years." Says the war is a small price to pay after years of Iranian regime, and oil prices will fall once it ends, according to Al Jazeera. So the president just tweeted now. I don't know if it's necessarily de-escalation tweets either. So we'll see how this affects things, but the president did just tweet, and that is affecting markets right now. I might jump back in here. I'm thinking about it. But let me make sure we didn't get any other breaking news here. Okay, we jumped back in. I'll show you this. There we go. I want to be a little bit more patient with this one. Yeah, I mean, it's all small. We're adding to winning trades if we get good movement here. Bitcoin is one of the big winners since the opening bell. It's at 74.5s. Right, so we're pushing up again. I might add back to this now. Give it some time. If it doesn't work, we'll cut it. Yeah, we're green since the opening bell, but I gotta change this song. I'm not feeling it. Alright, so there's a pop back higher here. That looks good. Cut half up there. Maybe add back on a dip. It's ahead of GTC, which is the only reason I'm much more bullish, just because of the GTC event I think can boost. But all right, there we go, another green. We'll add some size back on a dip if we get it. All right, we got 6 contracts here. Yeah, I mean, we're getting baked out here. We're just starting to chop, so we're down on, for sure on the day, but we're just getting kind of sideways choppy action. What happened to the volume profile? I thought we had a volume profile on there. Is it only pre-market that they give us? There it is. I had to refresh to get it back. Yeah, we're just kind of chopping back and forth since the opening bell. We'll see if we get anything good, but like what I like to do with these funded accounts is build up like big profit first, and that's harder to do with all the uncertainty going on today. Nasdaq's trying to break here. Yeah, we're kind of slowing down here on the Nasdaq. I want to see if it holds, but so we're popping back higher here. Let's sell some more. Oh, sorry here. We're actually green now on this account. There we go. Much more green. There we go. Look at this move here. So what we just got here, guys, that's helping me in this trade, is that we had a video statement by the IEA executive director that's going to be released at 14 GMT, which is 10 o'clock Eastern Standard Time today. That's in 15 minutes. So we're now green on the day here. We just popped higher here. I'm trying to see, there's got to be a catalyst driving this. I don't see anything though. Is it Nvidia related? Nvidia. No, not really. Nvidia's up to 184s. Alright, so now we got a dip. I might buy this dip again here. Let's see. We are kind of in the perfect zone for the volume profile, I think, right now. There we go. I'm gonna take that off here. Look at that zone for the volume profile. I'm gonna cut it up here at the top of the range. So yeah, we're up about 130 on the day. Pretty small, but yeah, so CNBC's Kramer says he cannot confirm that Meta is cutting 20% of its workforce. Yeah, y'all just be careful. One of the things I'll say today with GTC here, is that the scammers are out for GTC. Like, the scammers are out. What I mean by that is, like, if you look at this, they are effectively restreaming what I see right now, and you can all see it's the same thing. So, like, look, I'll show you guys what I mean by this. Okay, guys, so remember, the scammers are out today. Look at the NASDAQ push, 950s right now in the NQ, 950s. What I mean by this is that if you look at people here, like look, you notice how they all have the same thumbnail? And they're small channels, but they got 22,000 people watching, or 6.5 thousand people watching, and that they all have little music names here. These are all scammers, probably. I'm not 100% sure, but it looks like most of these are scammers. What they do is they'll take something that's real and they'll take somebody else's feed, and then they'll send it thousands of fake viewers. And then somewhere in the line, they'll try to get you to join their WhatsApp or their Telegram, or they'll say they'll send you free crypto, and that they'll double your crypto. However way they're going to try to get in touch with you through here because you think it's real, right? And then they're going to scam you from it. And so just be careful. Just be careful. There's a lot of people like that out there right now. Like I said, two things in the straight lock. Yeah, I mean, look at the NASDAQ go all the way up here and pull back. So we're starting to dip into... what happened is that the Qatari Minister of Defense responded to a second missile wave that targeted the state of Qatar. And so I don't know if that's influencing things, but I do see that right now. Javier Blas did comment on crude and Hormuz flow. But look at the swings in markets. I don't know what to do here. We're green on the day, but... yeah, they're all scammers with GTC, unfortunately. Yeah, I'm curious to buy this, but there's a lot of stuff going on right now that might swing this back and forth here, to be honest. So there's a lot of things going on that could swing this. You just got to be careful right now. And remember, guys, we are trading on our Lucid funded account. We're green on it today. Lucid has a lot of great stuff. So if you look at this here, if you look at Lucid, Lucid's one of the best ones. Most relaxed rules, no activation fees. You can either do Lucid Pro, which I passed one of these earlier. If you use my coupon code at checkout, I think you get 50% off for your first few. Coupon code BT. They also have their direct to funded option. And so you can go direct to funded if you use my coupon code for $238, which is honestly a pretty good deal considering a lot of other stuff. $238 direct to funded. You know, if you want a larger account, obviously you can take one of these, but it's really not a bad deal. Most day traders lose, so learning this way makes sense. And so having a $238 account that you can get 25K and basically get funded 25K in is a good deal. A good deal. Even if you look at the max loss limit, it's $1,000, and so it's only about a quarter of that in price. It just makes sense. Now, I'm biased. I get paid by them, but genuinely useful, guys. Genuinely useful. Again, if you want to check out Lucid, I'll put this link up. You can also see it pinned at the top of the chat. Yeah, we're looking at oil prices here. Nvidia 184s right now. NASDAQ still testing the top, but oil has fallen down to $94 a barrel as we speak right now. 94 a barrel for WTI crude. Also, if you want to check out Take Profit has some of the most relaxed rules in the game as well. The cool thing about Take Profit is that you can take daily withdrawals once you're over the buffer as well. There's no PDT in futures, obviously, but with Take Profit, you can also take daily withdrawals once you're over the buffer, and there's no activation fee there either. So Lucid, no activation fee. Take Profit, no activation fee. Just useful. useful. U.S. rent prices are down 1.5% in February. And yeah, if you want to check out Take Profit or Lucid or any of these, you can check out the description. Yeah, I mean, this is futures trading, not Costco, Snake. Yeah, I'm green on the day. Apple's green, Amazon's green, Home Depot's green, Coca-Cola's green, Nike's green, Oracle's green, PayPal's green, Snapchat's green, SoFi is green, Target is green. Yeah, 24,900, the top of that range here. So we talked about this range right here. 24,900's been holding. Like 24,900, this level is the top of that opening range, or that pre-market range is really what it is. That level's been holding support, but we're not really doing anything from here. Let me check something here. All right, guys. So yeah, I mean, it looks like a buy in the Nasdaq, but I'm not telling you to buy it because I really don't know what we're gonna get here. Kind of flat, to be honest. I'm not really confident in either side. Gold and silver. All right, we're at 24,890s here, so we're still testing 24,900s. Bitcoin's dumping. All right, so we still held 24,900 on the NQ. So the bull direction was right so far. John, which NQ contract do you have right now? So this is the TOS one. They haven't rolled over to the new one yet. When I look at Tradeovate, this is the other right one that I'm looking at. Getting so close to these highs. I got a big cushion on the day here. And so I'm tempted to buy a dip down to like 25 if we get it right here. But I have to wait for it. I'm not going to just jump in right now. We're close enough to the highs of the day. There's just so much uncertainty in terms of what we get right now. Trump says the cost of the conflict is negligible. He declines to comment on deploying ground troops, though, says the war will end soon, and says Iran was not ready for a deal. No major destruction of their infrastructure, though, and that the oil price will drop like a rock as soon as it's over, according to the U.S. president, who's kind of speaking right now. I wanted 925s. We didn't get it. We hit 950s here. I'll look for 925s as a dip, but that's only because we're ranging here. Yeah, look, here's a dip at 950s. If we get 925s, I'll probably try it here, just because we have a big enough cushion. See if I can build up a larger piece of profit on the day. The good thing about Lucid is that there's an end of day drawdown versus intraday. I want 925s though on the NASDAQ. Let's see if we get it. Thanks for the content, mate. Hey, thank you, Plaque. Appreciate it, brother. Thank you, sir. Yeah, it's 10 a.m. We don't have any data at 10 o'clock today either. It's a little bit slower for data. All the data is basically out on the day. Tomorrow we got the ADP jobs report that we can cover. Wednesday we have PPI inflation in the Fed meeting. So alright, so there's a dip. It's such a large dip though here. I don't know if this is worth a dip buy. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think so. It's too big of a drop. Yeah, I mean, this one's the M6, which is the newest contract, I think, right? I want to turn here. I might take one more here. All right, there we go. We're in. We got an immediate pop back up here. Let's see if it holds. There we go. There we go. Some more off here. One left. We'll hold the rest relatively break even on the rest. We got such an immediate pop back higher here. Look at that. We're up roughly a few $100s on the day. There we go. There we go. I'm gonna cut it right there. Just an immediate reaction here. Alright guys, I'm gonna cut out of here. And so yeah, y'all be good. Again, I'm gonna say this just because there's a lot of scammers out there. I see a lot of scammers regarding Nvidia GTC right now. There's so many different scammers pushing Nvidia GTC. It looks like they're creating fake accounts and then they're sending it thousands of fake viewers here. So just be careful, guys. I see a lot of scammers that are streaming Nvidia's GTC event. So yeah, y'all be careful. We're green on the day, though. I mean, we got into some good trades today. And yeah. I'm going to cut out of here, guys. So y'all be good. Have a great day. Y'all be safe today. Again, it's a crazy day. We'll be back tomorrow. Sorry, I'm kind of trying to look at some of this stuff. Hold on. Yeah, I'm gonna cut out here. Remember, NVIDIA's GTC event is gonna be going live very soon. And so it's gonna be at 2 p.m. today. Just be careful, is what I'm saying. Because, yeah, we don't really know what the market's gonna do. All right. All right, I'm trying to get the other stream scheduled. Forgive me here. We're trying to get it working. Let's see. Hold on. I think this one's right. Yep. Okay, cool. All right, guys, I'm cut out of here. Nasdaq's kind of choppy ahead of GTC, and I think that might be something that we see here. Again, if you want to check out Take Profit BG, use coupon code BG. If you want to check out Apex, if you want to check out Lucid, coupon code BT. Have a great day, guys. I'll see you guys probably tomorrow. I would cover GTC, but I think NVIDIA's already streaming it themselves, and so I don't know if there's a point in doing it, you know? And so I'll see you guys later. Y'all be good. Have a great day. Y'all be safe.